So, picture this: a brand new bridge, a massive storage tank, projects that cost millions and millions of dollars. Now, what if I told you its greatest enemy was something you couldn't even see? Something as simple as the air all around us. Today, we're going to dig into how a tiny 5-degree difference, an invisible condition in the atmosphere, can be the one thing that separates a huge success from a total, catastrophic failure. Let's get into it. When you're dealing with these huge industrial projects, the most dangerous enemy isn't always the one you can see coming. Sometimes it's silent, it's everywhere, and it's it's the atmosphere itself, just waiting for a chance to sabotage all your hard work. Take a look at this. This isn't because someone used bad materials or did a sloppy job. Nope. This is called flash rusting. It's what happens when a perfectly prepped steel surface starts to corrode almost instantly, just because the air around it is too humid. The environment literally attacked the project before the protective coating could even do its job. And it's not just about moisture either. This here is a totally different kind of failure. See that rough, kind of sandy texture? That's called dry spray. And it happened because high winds and warm temperatures actually caused the coating to start drying in mid-air before it even hit the steel. Another invisible force, another incredibly costly disaster. So, here's the bottom line, the crucial point. Controlling the environment, it's not optional. It's a non-negotiable rule of the game. The second those atmospheric conditions drift outside of what the manufacturer says is okay, well, you just can't guarantee the quality of the work anymore. Okay, so if the enemy is invisible, how in the world do we fight it? Well, we learn to see the unseen. We basically become environmental detectives, always on the hunt for a very specific set of clues. And it turns out there are 5 of these hidden forces that tell us everything we need to know. And here they are. This is the most wanted list for every single inspector on a job site. You've got surface temperature, air temperature, relative humidity, dew point, and wind speed. These 5 are the critical variables that will literally decide the fate of the project. You master these, you control the outcome. All right, first up, surface temperature. Now, this is a big one because it is not the same as the air temperature. Think about a steel plate that's been baking in the sun all day. It can be way, way hotter than the air around it. And if that surface is too hot or too cold, the coating just won't cure the way it's supposed to, and that leads to huge problems down the line. Next, you've got the air temperature. This one affects what's called the pot life of the coating, which is basically how long you have to apply it before it starts to harden up right there in the can. It also messes with how quickly solvents evaporate. Seriously, just a few degrees of difference here can completely change your whole work schedule. Then we've got relative humidity. Okay, the easiest way to think about this is that the air is kind of like a big sponge. At 100% humidity, that sponge is totally soaked. It can't hold any more water. Most projects won't even let you work if the humidity is above 85%, because with that much moisture in the air, the solvents in the paint have nowhere to go. They just can't evaporate. And that brings us to maybe the sneakiest variable of all, the dew point. This is the exact temperature where the air gets so saturated that moisture just starts condensing onto a surface. It's the air's sweat point. And if your steel is at or below this temperature, an invisible layer of condensation will form on it, and trying to paint over that is an absolute guarantee for failure. And finally, there's wind speed. This one seems pretty obvious, right? But it's more than just an annoyance. Like we saw, strong winds can cause that dreaded dry spray. But they can also blow dust, salt, you name it, right into your fresh, wet coating, ruining the whole job. Okay, so we've got our 5 hidden forces, we've identified them, but how do you actually measure them? I mean, you can't just stick your hand out and guess. You need a specialized toolkit to make the invisible visible. Let's take a look at what that's all about. This right here is the inspector's arsenal. You've got thermometers, hygrometers, anemometers for wind speed. Every single tool is designed to capture one specific piece of this environmental puzzle. It's all about gathering precise, accurate evidence. And the technology has come a long way. On one side, you've got these simple, super reliable analog tools that just do one job and do it well. But on the other, you have modern digital gadgets that can measure multiple things at once and even do the critical calculations for you. It's all about getting faster, more accurate data because, remember, these conditions can change in a heartbeat. So now we have our 5 measurements. The air is 75 degrees, the humidity is 60%. You get the idea. This is where all that data finally comes together. This is the moment of truth, where one simple calculation tells you if work can go ahead or if the entire operation has to shut down right now. And that's the big question, right? You've got all these different numbers swirling around. So how do you boil it all down to a single, simple yes or no answer? Is it safe to paint or not? Well, the answer is a calculation called the delta T. Now, don't let the name scare you. Delta is just a fancy way of saying difference. All you do is you take the surface temperature, you find out the dew point, and you subtract one from the other. That one little number, that's the key to everything. And this is it. This is the magic number, 5 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius. To stop that invisible condensation from forming, the surface temperature must be at least 5 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the dew point. This creates a critical safety buffer. This is the rule that saves projects. But just knowing that rule isn't a one-and-done checklist item. It's actually part of a much bigger philosophy, something we call the inspector's mindset. It's a state of constant vigilance, of knowing that the job site is a living, breathing thing that is always changing. And this quote just nails the whole idea perfectly. You can't just take a reading down on the ground and assume it's going to be the same 100 feet up in the air. The side of a tank in the sun is totally different from the side in the shade. You have to take your measurements exactly where the work is happening, and you have to do it over and over again. Because the consequences of getting this wrong, they're severe. A little slip up in this mindset leads straight to disaster. You get inaccurate reports because someone measured the wrong spot. You get curing failures because the temperature dropped when no one was looking. You overlook the fact that one section of the project fell out of spec. These aren't small mistakes. These are multi-million-dollar mistakes that come from just one moment of not paying attention. When you really think about it, all of this incredible precision is just to make sure a coat of paint sticks properly. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? With so much riding on these tiny, invisible conditions, what other parts of our world, from launching a rocket into space to performing surgery, depend on this exact same